Hey guys, Brady here, back to you guys with some more kick butt moves, man. And I just want to let you know that if you like what you're seeing in this video, then please click on the link down in the description below. In that link, you will find my personal YouTube channel, where I review movies and more. That's all. Start the intro.
Hey guys, Brady here, and I'm back from yet another hiatus. So, I want to ask y'all a question. Doesn't this look familiar to you? If you said yes, then you're probably familiar with the Toys to Life franchise, Skylanders. Starting in 2011 with, of course, the first game, and getting several sequels across the board. Same thing goes for Alpha and Omega. Alpha and Omega has like a lot of sequels, and so does this game series. Alpha and Omega is a movie series, by the way. It's not a good one either. So back to the topic. Skylanders. It was eaten up by many toddlers and kids all over the world, and it ate the money out of their parents' wallets. Out of their parents' wallets, yeah. And some of these have actually been very hard to find, but of course, I was one of those kids that ate up these little creatures like absolutely no one's business. So, and so did He-Man as well. So, naturally, I must start another marathon. Upon the success of my Insane Trilogy marathon, my Super Smash-a-thon, and my most recent Mario 3D-a-thon, I decided, you know what? I want to keep this train moving. Let's keep going with the Skylanders Marathon. Boom! So, our first game on the list is Skylanders Spyro's Adventure for the Wii, PS3, Xbox 360, and 3DS. No joke, there was actually a 3DS version, and it's not a good version to go out with. So, the game started out in 2011, with, of course, being developed by Toys for Bob, and the same people who are working on Crash 4, It's About Time, and published by Activision Incorporated. The same people who made the Crash Insane Trilogy, the Spyro Trilogy, and the CTR Nitro Fuel remastered version. So, of course, they had to start out with Skylanders. And basically the gimmick was that you had this toy pad. This is the pluggable version, by the way. The original one basically had an NFC thing, you know, like a USB thing you plug back into your Wii, Xbox 360, or PS3. That's what it had, folks. But this is the pluggable version for the later games. So basically you had this toy pad, and you place characters like good old Eruptor here, and you put it on the toy pad. And they go inside of the game. It's kind of like LEGO Dimensions in Disney Infinity, which were basically the rivaling games that rivaled good old Skylanders here. And boy, there's a lot of them. Like I said, there's Eruptor, there's Stump Smash, there's Trigger Happy, there's Prism Break, which I can't find currently. There's Terrapin, he's also been one of my favorites. There's Gil Grunt, this is the Swap Force version of it. Chop Chop, and Stealth Elf, Bash, a lot of characters. Voodoo, Wrecking Ball, who else? Lightning Rod, Whirlwind, Sonic Boom, all these characters. And of course, the main star of the somewhat entire series, Spyro the Dragon. Yeah, no kidding. Spyro the Dragon is the star of this game. The old franchise that was was unforgettably unforgettable. It was a classic, but sadly, Spyro kept getting worse and worse. You know, Spyro Enter the Dragonfly, those other ones, Legend of Spyro, those were terrible, by the way. And of course, he went where, of course, every franchise went to die, shovelware. So, Skylanders was born, with this guy as the lead. And you may think, that's not Spyro, that's just a dragon. Well, it's another one of those crappy redesigns that everyone seems to be doing these days. Except for Mario and Link and Kirby. Those guys have yet to get a redesign. Crash, Banjo, Spyro, and Conker, they all got redesigns eventually. So, and not all of them were good. Alright, so, let's talk about the story. The story here is that there's this villain named Chaos. K-A-O-S.
My head is awesome, I tell you! Fear it! Fear my giant floating head!
Yes, K-A-O-S, not C-H-A-O-S. That's the normal Chaos. Chaos is spelled K-A-O-S. Alright, and his servant Glumshanks.
See? I told you the head isn't scary enough.
Silence, Glumshanks!
Are trying to take over Skylands. And since the Skylanders are gone, from Skylands, they began to shrink and transform into these toys that were brought to the real world, where you, as the Portal Master, are challenged with the quest of taking down Chaos. And you are taught this through the legendary Eon, Master Eon, which is basically the big floating head that talks to you at the beginning of every Skylanders game. And he's like, "Greetings, Portal Master. I, Eon, will help you." And so you head off on your quest with the Skylander buddies that you have. And of course, this game has a lot of stuff. You level up from getting gold, and gold is actually everywhere. It's in barrels, it's in chests, it's in basically everything. Experience points can be found in enemies, by the way, and therefore you can level up characters in this game. That's the beauty of Toys to Life, basically. So let's start off with the first level, right? You get introduced to these two characters, Hugo and Flynn, who he claims to be the best pilot in all of Skylands. And his catchphrase is the classic, lovable catchphrase, BOOM! It's pretty hard to do it, and I swear, he literally sounds like Patrick Warburton. But that was probably what they were trying to go for. And so, you bring in the Skylanders on the toy pad, basically. You bring in the Skylander of your choice, obviously. Gilgrunt, Stump Smash, Eruptor, the characters that I literally just explained a few minutes ago, and Hugo talks to them, or the character that you choose, and you go and save the day. You go and save the Mabus, which are basically the villagers of this game. And of course, there's a lot of different names for these stages. You know, Perilous Pastures, Shattered Islands, the Darkwater Cove, Oil Spill Island, the Battlefield, the Troll Factory, the Archean Towers, or whatever. Every single Cadaverous Crypt, there's a lot of stages in this game. A lot of stages. And most of them are basically a mission of which you gotta do is you gotta rebuild the Core of Light, which was basically the magical source for the Skylanders. And this magical source for Eon. So of course you have to resurrect him by getting the sources, you know, the magic source, the water source, the tech source, the fire source, the earth source, the life source, the air source, the undead source. Every single source in the history of the world is here. And so you go get those sources and all the machine parts in order to rebuild the Core of Light. And so, let's talk about the gameplay. The gameplay is kind of simplistic if you think about it. You obviously have the control that you use with your system, Xbox 360, PS3, or Wii. I have the Wii version. I gotta use those freaking nunchucks. So basically, you have the A button, which is your basic attack, the B button, which is your secondary attack, and the Z button, which is your unlockable attack. And you will get that attack once you get the correct amount of gold and visit Persephone, which is the level up fairy, the ability fairy,
who talks like this and has really faulty English.
And then you get that attack. And some of the attacks can actually range from being minor to just being freaking overpowered. For example, Eruptor has like these magma balls that he shoots out of his mouth, and he has and if you press the B button, he erupts, and there's mini volcanoes all over the place. Eruptor's basically the most overpowered character in the game. Almost. Imagine there being a tier list of all the Skylanders. But, I digress. So, and of course there are boss battles which you have to beat as well, and they're actually spirits of certain Skylanders, you know, dark versions of them, you know, ones that are controlled by chaos, if it isn't obvious by now. So, of course, you gotta beat them up, and once you do, you get the certain source in that certain area, or machine part that you gotta rebuild the core of light with. So, let's get to the final boss. The final boss, of course, is Chaos, and he has these dragons, of course, which I took in my notes, obviously. And so, he's also got his Doom Sharks, and he attacks in basically lines. It goes like something like that, and he has all these different attacks, and he's basically and all the bosses are incredibly easy, and they could be beaten in many seconds. And of course, once you beat Chaos, you head back to the hub world basically, and you save the day from Chaos, ending Skylanders Spyro's adventure. But Eon says that your adventure with the Skylanders is only the beginning. So overall, I kind of liked this game as a kid, but revisiting it now, it has a lot of charm going for it, which is why I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. For it having memorable characters, like Flynn, of course, and Kelly, having a ton of stages, a level up system, different unlockable abilities, and so much stuff, including a battle mode for some reason. And it just being Activision's big flagship franchise before it went downhill from there. But, of course, we're going to talk about those games that made the series go downhill. So, let's move on. Now it's time to move on to Giants. Skylanders Giants. For Wii U, Xbox 360, PS3, OG Wii, and 3DS. This time around, the Skylanders have new companions. Well, not companions, but they're still kind of different than usual. The Giants. Now, I even remember seeing the trailer as a kid and being so hyped for this game. So, there's a lot of Giants to choose from. So, allow me to go through some of them, and not all of them. You got Thumpback, there's Tree-Rex, there's Bouncer, the tech one, Crusher, the stone one, Eyebrawl, Ninjini, the only girl giant in this game, Swarm, Hothead, who else is there? A lot of them, actually. And even some original Skylanders, too, who would then go on to become mainstay characters. Specifically, Jetback and Pop Fizz. These two characters would then go on to become mainstay characters, along with Spyro, Gilgrunt, Trigger Happy, Stealth Elf, among others. So, how about the story? The story here is that we obviously get introduced to Master Eon, and hijinks ensues as there used to be this thing called the Fist of Arcus, who led this Archean army of robots. And they were evil too. So what happens? The giants came in to save the day. But sadly, just like the actual Skylanders in Spyro's adventure, they were sent to the real world, and they began to shrink into these little figures, which you, as the Portal Master, have to collect. And this time around, there's also a new hub world as well, but it's a little bit more smaller than you think. Hugo is not part of this game, only Flynn and Callie. So Flynn basically built himself an airship for him to travel across the world. It would be easier to travel by hot air balloon since we did that in the previous game. And yes, we did that. So, and then Chaos is like, so Chaos gets destroyed and sent to the real world. I didn't mention that in the previous part, but he ended up in a toy store where he himself was a toy, and he saw Trigger Happy, Spyro, or Gil Grunt, Spyro, Stealth Elf, and Stump Smash in a little container. And he's like, I'm going to take over the world, and you guys know it. And so he finds himself a Skylanders portal. And he can actually talk to Glumshanks through the TV, through the demo TV at the toy store, which is actually really, really funny. Chaos is like, I am going to go back into Skylands and steal that fist of Arcus and become an evil overlord of robots. So he jumps on the portal, but then nothing happens, and then something happens, and he goes back to Skylands to take over the world. Plot! Isn't that all you need? Alright, now for the gameplay. The gameplay is actually kind of thorough, to be honest. Since you're using the Wii U gamepad or nunchuck or controller, or the controller of your choice, like the Pro Controller or whatever, I would prefer the Pro Controller or nunchuck, because the Wii U gamepad was kind of a failed accessory, but I digress. Of course there's, gold and there's gold everywhere, like in the previous game. Unlockable abilities, like in the previous game. There's hats, like in the previous game, even though they don't matter, unless you're like, I want to put a top hat on top of Gilgrunt or T-Rex. I bet some people actually did that. But yeah, so. And here's something I actually forgot to mention in the previous part. There was actually a promotion for Frito-Lay with Skylanders. And what would happen was, in an assorted bag of Frito-Lay's chips, potato chips or the wavy chips or whatever, those kind of chips, yes, you would in an assortment of bags of Frito-Lay products, you would get a mini Skylander who would act as a magic item. In the previous game, we had Gil Runt, Trigger Snappy, Whisper Elf, and I can't really remember the other one, but he was in there. And here, Giants has the same promotion with different Skylanders. Instead of T-Rex, we have Barkley. Instead of Ninjini, we have Mini Genie, I think that's what it's called. Eyebrawl is now Eye Small, and Thumpback is now Thumpling. Skylanders just has a lot of creative stuff going for it, but yeah. And the combat is still simplistic, and kids can easily follow the control scheme. It's as typical as you may get, but it's kind of inventive. I mean, I'm sorry, I know controls nowadays are way more advanced and kids can learn them a bit easier. Back in the day, this is what we had. So, how about the graphics? They're kind of the exact same as Spyro's Adventure, except with a little bit more of a Wii U-esque touch to it. It's not perfect, but yeah, not bad, but not much to it. So, how about the bosses? Well, there aren't really that many bosses, except for the Spirit Skylanders that were controlled by Chaos. They're back, I think. And now we enter the hub world. It's the airship, and we of course meet a bunch of different characters along the way. Even even some characters that you may not think could be in a Skylanders game. For example, like a spirit who's like, let's go control a robot in one of the levels. And there's even a level that's actually a puppet world. And it's actually kind of scary if you think about it. I think it's called Willikin World or something like that. I don't know. But basically what that is basically there's these people that look like they're dead. It's like some sort of rejected Lego set place or something. It's not Legos, but it's wooden puppets. But once you switch on the day button, they turn into working puppets, you know, like Pinocchio or something like that. Except if they tell a lie, they don't grow their nose big. So yeah. And the hub world is like I said, the hub world is still small because it's Flynn's airship, and he really should have made it a bit bigger. But Persephone is back. Seriously, does anybody care about Persephone? I mean, really, she only gives you upgrades, and that's it. That is literally it. And she still has that stupid faulty English that she's used for. But she's still a main cast character to this day, and we can't help but just remember the crap out of her. Alright, so now... Oh, jeez, what is that voice crack? That wasn't technically a voice crack, but yeah. So, how about we move straight to the final boss? And you're probably wondering, this early? Well, yeah, I basically covered everything. The graphics, the gameplay, the controls, the Skylanders. I've named almost every giant. So I suppose it's finally time for us to head on to the final boss. Let's go ahead and do that. So the final boss, of course, is Chaos, except this time he's gotten control of the Fist of Arcus. So it's up to you, as the giants, to take him out. And once you do that, Chaos, of course, goes back to doing his evil ways, but, yeah, and ending Skylanders' giants. But Eon once again says that the adventure with your giants is only the beginning. That's kind of reusing a phrase, by the way. So in the end, so overall, what can you really say about Giants? It isn't as much of a masterpiece as the first game. It's still playable. It feels like a real Activision product that could actually be sold in stores, which is why I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. Actually a 9.5 out of 10. Because for it having tight controls, some pretty unique gimmicks in some levels, some assorted levels, and of course having the cast of characters we are all used to back in this game. So, let's get to the next part. Whoosh!
Lord Chaos? Is that who I think it is?
Mother?
Uh-oh.
Let's talk about Swap Force. So, the main gimmick this time is that these Skylanders, you got Washbuckler and Blast Zone, they can actually be taken apart, and they have these little magnet things on both things. You could take these apart, and you could create new Skylanders with different body parts. So you have Blast Buckler and Wash Zone with that. So yeah, and of course you could always change them back whenever you want to their normal forms. And say you want to cross Magna Charge with Rattleshake, you would get, of course, the majestic, illustrious, mind-numbing characters known as Magna Shake and Rattle Charge. Oh boy. Alright, so, what is the story here? The story this time is that Chaos is still doing his evil doings like he's always done throughout this entire trilogy. Alright, so, he's found this way of doing evil. So, he basically tries to create these purple crystals when someone swallows it, they turn into an evil villain, and they become purple for some reason. But yeah, we move to the other characters, you know, Flynn and Callie. But Callie is nowhere to be found. It's just Flynn this time, the only returning character. Callie and Hugo are only in the beginning cutscene, nothing else. And of course Flynn talks like this, and he's like, "Well, hello there, Callie." And he's brung a volcano hat because he's gonna see a volcano erupt for some reason. And but fortunately for us, it is a portal to the dimension that this game takes place in, which is really neat-ish. So, Flynn meets up with a new character, another one, fortunately for us, named Tessa, who is this annoying character who has a habit of saying "kablam" a lot. And she apparently has never seen a Skylander face-to-face before. And so, once they enter that dimension, we of course, Flynn accidentally crash lands his ship, and he's like, "I told you, I'm not leaving anywhere without my ship." Well, maybe I am. And so they head to this village filled with a bunch of these other furry characters, including a mayor and 2 hippos, which actually are the upgrade people this time. I wonder if they're cousins to Moto, or something like that. So, and one of them actually opens up a shop, apparently in one part of the game. But he's the guy who's holding the dumbbell is our upgrade character. I can't remember the names of their characters, but I don't know, honestly. But he's like, "Hello, Skylander friend. Are you ready to upgrade some stuff to rival my own?" And Persephone is nowhere to be found this time. It's just the hippos and this weird egg thing that grants your upgrades to both sides, actually, to both sides of the character. Say this one's focused on arm cannon combat, and this one's focused on speed and whatnot. That's basically what they're trying to accomplish here. So, you go through countless bosses. Oh, how about the gameplay? The gameplay. It's kind of the same as Giants, but this time you can jump. You can jump. Something that the original games were lacking so hard. The original games had everything. It had attacks, special attacks, super attacks, unlockable attacks, but you couldn't jump. Think of it as Captain Toad, but 10 times more dumber. But Swap Force here changes that and lets you jump. Finally, at least. So, how about the graphics? Oh my god, the graphics are so good in this game. It makes you think that it is actually meant for a PS4. And it's on the Wii U too, so that makes it even worse. Or even better, depending on if you liked the Wii U or not. So, yeah, that's it. So, what about the boss battles? And you're probably wondering, already? Well, kind of. I mean, there's a few differences between the previous game's bosses and this game's bosses. This game's bosses actually have personality. And the weird thing is, you actually battle Glumshanks, but not as you may think. Chaos is like, "I'm done with you being the boring, pissy little lowbrow kind of goblin that you are. Here, have a crystal." And so Glumshanks turns into an evil Glumshanks, or evilized Glumshanks. Evilized basically means you're evil and you have purple crystals all over you. Enemies have that throughout this entire game. It's like, evilized, blah, blah, blah. Something like that, I don't know. But he's also got this little tank, which means, hey, Glumshanks can show his strength too. And of course you fight Mesmerelda, which who even remembers her? She does make an appearance in Superchargers. And you even fight Chaos's mom, who was actually teased at the end of Giants, where Chaos is like, "Mother?" And so Chaos's mom makes an appearance in this game, whether we like it or not. So of course, naturally, and by the way, I got to mention something. If you don't have enough Skylanders to play this game, that's okay. You can reuse. It's basically backwards compatible with every single Skylander that you have up to the current versions. The final game lets you use every single Skylander in the entire series. That's actually kind of cool, considering what if you have just the Swap Force guys, and you dig into your drawers and find, oh look, I have Skylanders Giants and Spyro's Adventure figures. You can use those in Swap Force, which is really, really inventive. And later in the years, Disney Infinity would also learn that in 3.0 and 2.0. So, yeah, that's it. So I've basically covered everything as of right now. The gameplay, the story, the bosses, the graphics, because I gotta mention the graphics every time in the games. Yeah. So, what do you say we get into the final boss? If you're wondering, already? Yes, because the final boss is super important. So basically what happens is that Chaos creates all these purple crystals, and somehow it backfires, and the tower of purple crystals falls over like, and it falls on Chaos, and he's like, yes, I can feel the power in my bones. And basically, he has become this beast of a monster known as Super Evil Chaos. I can't tell you how much that makes sense, almost. So basically, he's super evilized Chaos. Like, this gargantuan beast of Chaos, basically. Man, oh man, oh man. That's something, man. Alright. So, of course, you defeat Chaos, being, of course, the gargantuan beast that he is, ending Skylanders Swap Force. But, just like every single Skylanders game, truth be told, the adventure with your Swap Force characters is only the beginning. So, in the end, overall, what can you really say about Swap Force? It's sort of the oddball in the Skylanders franchise. It's fun, but the execution really is lacking for the most part, which is why I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. It's not bad, far from it actually. Far from being a bad game. It's good, but not great. So I like this game for it having swappable Skylanders, some sort of new evil plot, and some freaking gorgeous graphics, even for the Wii U. So, shall we move on? Let's do it. So this is Trap Team. Skylanders Trap Team. So, let's get started with the gimmick. This time around, the title speaks for itself, as we have ourselves these things called Traptanium crystals. And basically what these are is basically, take this hammer one for example. This is one that came with the starter pack. You basically put it into a slot in the toy pad. Well, the portal has been redesigned once again for some reason, and basically you put it in the slot to trap a villain, and you could actually play as villains in this game. So, but we'll get to that in a bit. Of course, we have like a lot of ones, like the undead one, the earth one, fire one. There's like I said, a hammer one, which is grass or life, and basically, every element has a trap. That's all I gotta say. So, let's dive right into the story. So the story is that Chaos, of course, got defeated. And, but he's not done just yet. You may remember the previous story, Swap Force. Yes, you may remember Swap Force having a story about, Chaos has all these purple crystals, but then he gets defeated by the Skylanders. And this time, he's out to get revenge. But a specific kind of revenge. There's this place called Cloudcracker Prison, which is where the most evil baddies are held. And long ago, these Skylanders called Trap Masters, which basically are, Wallop, Snapshot, Enigma, Jawbreaker. There's a lot, actually. Gusto, Thunderbolt, Tough Luck, Bushwhack. So many characters, just like in the previous game. And the best part about it, this game is the mini Skylanders from the Frito-Lay promotion are actually playable as real Skylanders. You may have remembered in my Giants review that in that part I mentioned a Frito-Lay promotion, and they had these mini Skylanders. Well, now there are mini Skylanders that are actually playable in this game. In this game's Trap Team. And there are some original ones that were created specifically for Trap Team. Of course, you had Trigger Snappy, Terabyte, Whisper Elf, Gil Runt, Barkley, Eye Small, Mini Genie, and Thumpling. But now we have some other ones. This time around we have Small Fry, which is, a mini version of, crap, I forgot his name. Well, it was something Fry. I don't know. Fryer or something like that. He rides a motorcycle. And we have Weeruptor. That's cute. Hijinks. Spry, which is basically baby Spyro. Pet Vac, and Breeze. There you go. Actually, and Drobit as well, which is basically Drobot, except smaller. But back to the story. This group of villains, who go under the names, Chompy Mage, who you may remember from Giants, he was a boss in Giants, Dr. Crankcase, Chef Pepperjack, Dreamcatcher, Wolfgang, Gulper, and Golden Queen were the baddest baddies alive. So, what happened? The Trap Masters encased them in this trap. Well, basically, they encased them in, Cloudcracker Prison. Until, just like every single Skylanders game, they began to shrink and turn into these figures that you would buy in stores. But what happened to Cloudcracker Prison? Basically, the leftover crystals from Cloudcracker Prison turned into these Traptanium crystals that you would buy in stores to get, to trap the villains in, and that's the reason why the villains are playable. So yeah, that's the story. And of course, we get introduced to a brand new character in this game, and it's at the very start of the very first level. His name is Buzz. Boomsticks! That's his catchphrase. And he used to be this super commando kind of guy until, everybody gets old at one point, and so did Buzz. And I think we do get another new character later on, but that's for another time. So, how about the gameplay? Do I really need to explain it? It's basically the same play style as Swap Force, except you get new Skylanders to play as, of course. Like, the ones that I explained, the Trap Masters. You can play as them, and they actually have pretty broken abilities, too, thanks to their crystal weapons. Yeah, that's the main focus of this game. It's just crystals and nothing else. how original. No, I'm not kidding. It's pretty original. So yeah, that's basically the gameplay portion of it. And you're probably wondering, how do you capture villains? With these Traptanium crystals, of course. They can range from so many lovable villains to, like, Sheep Creep, which is the very first villain you captured, Tussle Sprout, Rage Mage, Mastermind, Painata. You can even capture a Chompy. The weakest enemy in the Skylanders franchise can be captured. I cannot... I'm not pulling your leg, guys. That's a real enemy you could capture. And there's also Bone Chompy as well. So basically, you go around these different worlds and you capture the members of that particular group that I just said. You know, Chompy Mage, Chef Pepperjack, Dreamcatcher, Dr. Crankcase, Wolfgang, who was advertised in the very first trailer, Gulper, and Golden Queen. Golden Queen being the one who's like, I want all the power, and I want to be queen of this group. And she even disses Chaos. Even coming close to putting a golden pacifier on him to shut him up. That's how power hungry she is. Yikes. But yeah. And of course, those characters that are in the group are all bosses, and they are pretty easy to beat, because it's a kid's game. So yeah. But don't worry, Chaos has some tricks up the sleeve. How about the graphics? I just did the worst transition ever. How about the graphics? The graphics are kind of the same as Swap Force, but a little bit updated. Considering this was 2014. Yes, 2014 was when this game came out. Same year as Smash 4. And Disney Infinity 2.0. So yeah. There's even a mini-game that you could play, and it's a rhythm mini-game. Once you complete a certain amount of levels, a certain character from a previous Skylanders game will show up. And they're like, you want a jiggy, or do you want to play some country music or something? Or you're ready to rock, or something like that? You ready to spin the turntables like a DJ? Or something like that? Yeah, that's a pretty fun minigame, actually. And a lot of the characters are actually returning characters from Spyro's Adventure and Giants. And Swap Force, kind of. But yes, so, there's that. How about we get to the final boss? Obviously, the final boss is Chaos, but if you have a special trap, there's this special trap called the Chaos Trap. And it obviously has Chaos's face on it, and it's black because Chaos's robe is black. Basically, you put it in the slot, and Chaos, you can play as Chaos. You can't play as Glumshanks, unfortunately. That's the worst part. But you can play as Chaos, the main villain. Oh my god. And once you beat him, he actually does break the fourth wall a few times. Just a few, not a lot. There's that. And so, Chaos gets trapped inside the Traptanium crystal, ending Skylanders' Trap Team. But of course, like every ending in the entirety of the Skylanders saga, Eon of course says, your adventure with the Traptanium crystals and the Trap Masters is only the beginning. So overall, this game can actually be very, very fun. But not too fun, unlike the previous few games. Which is why I am giving it a 9 out of 10. For it starting what I proclaim to be a brand new trilogy of games. For example, the first one was the first trilogy, and then this game started the Academy trilogy, which basically the Academy is your new hub world throughout the next two games. So there's that. I like this game for it having pretty up-res graphics, having trap masters, traptanium crystals, and you can play as Chaos. How awesome is that? I can't believe it. So, without further ado, let's move on. Whoosh! Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines. We're taking a look at superchargers. And you may be asking yourself, Brady, what is the main gimmick of this game? Just like Trap Team and Swap Force and Giants, the title speaks for itself. Vehicles are now introduced into the series. It's kind of like Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing Transformed, except you don't transform into the specific vehicle. You have to place it onto the portal. But, yeah, say a road is starting to come up to you. You have to choose the car. And you choose the car and you put it on the toy pad. And it also has the NFC chip inside of it. And you put it on the toy and on the portal, and you can drive that. And say you're doing a water stage, you gotta use this boat or submarine. Something like that. So yes. And of course there's planes, but I unfortunately could not find a plane. I do have the Stealth Elf helicopter, but I can't find it at this point. And also, I have this as well. This is a Chaos trophy. It's used for a racing mode. There's a racing mode in this game, guys, and each track has somewhat of a thing, say, land track, water track, and air track. So yes, and this I think unlocks Chaos as a playable racer. I don't know. I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that I'm not. And by the way, the Skylanders themselves got some changes. So remember how in the previous few games, like, I didn't mention it, but remember how, like, in the other games, the Skylanders kept getting, you know, different looking figures? Well, now they're getting a complete overhaul with these, the superchargers. You got Stealth Elf, who looks like she's ready for Team Fortress 2. Terrafin, for some reason, has like an arm cannon. Phew. Even Eruptor got an overhaul with this lance, fire lance, and this biker attire. And of course, we are introduced to some newer Skylanders as well, like Spitfire, Diveclops, and Splat. I think that's her name. And of course, Pop Fizz gets a redesign, and so does Gil Grunt. Yeah, Gil Grunt. Roller Brawl. Trigger Happy gets a overhaul or whatever. Jetpack gets an overhaul, and of course, this is actually the very first Skylanders game to include other intellectual property characters. For example, we have Donkey Kong and Bowser in this game. Only for Nintendo platforms, sadly. But, that's beside the point. My point is, they added Donkey Kong and Bowser in this game as turbocharged Donkey Kong and Hammer Slam Bowser, which also act as amiibo. That is what got Nintendo fans straight to the stores to get themselves a Donkey Kong amiibo. And I tried getting it, but sadly, I have the Xbox 360 version of this game, and I couldn't play as Donkey Kong or Bowser. And I was like, oh crap, I forgot. It's only for Nintendo platforms. Well, little did we know that Microsoft, the creators of Xbox, would help put Cuphead on Switch, and put Banjo and Smash, and put Outer Worlds on the Switch. Frick, they're even putting Balan Wonderland Wonderworld on the Switch, which is an Xbox game as well. But you're probably wondering, what's the story? The story this time is that Chaos actually took over Skylands. He won. He instantly won. He's captured Hugo, Flynn, Callie, He's even captured Eon, who's alive for some reason. I don't know how he's alive. But anyways, he's like, so I'm going to cut you off of Skylands for good! With no more Skylands to go back to, your Skylanders will become the helpless toys they've always been turning out to be. So long, Poser Master! Forever! And then he pushes the button and then everything goes off. And then you think that that's it. But it's not over. Hugo is trying to fix the portal. And so he does, and you gotta drive the car into Skylands. And yes, so basically Chaos is like this overlord king or something. And that's all I gotta say for that. So how about the graphics? Before we get to the gameplay, let's talk about the graphics. The graphics are actually really better, much better. Really, really good graphics. Even the fire textures are awesome. The fire textures, and you may know that's not a reoccurring design flaw, and yeah, it may not be a design flaw, but it's not a design flop. So, how about the gameplay? It is the typical Skylanders formula that you'd expect. You can jump, you can attack. There's of course, there's unlockable stuff. You can upgrade your car with boat, plane with a different type of car part or something. There's even a racing mode, like I said, which you can use this and the car and the plane and the boat. This will unlock Chaos, I think, and go at it. There's even online racing gameplay. There's online multiplayer in this game. Oh my lord. As if this game couldn't get any more spectacular. What about the boss battles? I can't remember any of the boss battles, but I think, yeah, I don't know if I can remember any of the boss battles, but I'm sure He-Man does. If he's played Supercharged, that is. So, back to the topic. Chaos took over the world, and he's, creating this thing called the Darkness, which is the final boss, but yeah, it's the final boss. We'll get to that in a bit. The Darkness is basically trying to swallow up Skylands and destroy it. Dang, I never knew Skylanders could get so hectic and intense and really brutal. Oh my god. But that's beside the point. And of course, the Academy is your hub world, and of course you get a bunch of other things to do. Training with Buzz, testing out different vehicles, and whatnot. There's hidden treasure troves that you need a specific vehicle to get to. Like I said, there's online multiplayer, which Callie has the authority to do. And of course, there's editing your car. Ooh, man. That is incredible. Alrighty. Now then, how about we get to, what was I gonna say? Unlike Swap Force, Giants, and Spyro's Adventure, there is no battle mode. It's kind of sad because the battle mode got replaced with, you know, the racing gameplay, which is online as well. And Trap Team didn't have a battle mode, I don't think. But that's kind of sad. So, what do you say we move on to the final boss? The final boss, like I said, is the Darkness, and you gotta beat it up and take down Chaos, and frick, even Glumshanks tries to help you at one point. Even Glumshanks is like, no, I need to help them, because I don't know what I'm gonna do with Chaos. And the weird thing is, freaking Glumshanks changes his accent right after Spyro's Adventure. He goes from, hey, I'm Glumshanks too. Lord Chaos, I'm not sure about this. So yeah. So the final boss, of course, is the Darkness and Chaos. And even, I think Chaos tries to help you at one point, or you save Chaos, I don't know. But you beat the Darkness, ending Superchargers. But of course, every ending has to end with the adventures with your superchargers is only the beginning. But Chaos interrupts and is like, it's the end of Skylanders. Ha ha! No. We have one more game after this. So, overall, what can you really say about Superchargers? The graphics, top notch. The gameplay, a little bit of the same. The racing gameplay, this is unbelievably unbelievable. Which is why I'm giving it a 9, and actually an 8 out of 10, for it having splendid graphical improvements, racing gameplay, online multiplayer, and yeah, and even having you rebuild the core of light, I think. Like in the first game, which of course it gets destroyed at one point, but otherwise, this game's awesome. Let's move on to the final part. This is it. The big one. The final game. The last in the Academy Trilogy, Skylanders Imaginators. Released in 2016. At least I think. Yep, it's probably 2016. And then it got a Switch port in 2017. I mean, really, why would you want that? I mean, you already have it on the Xbox or PS4 or Wii U. You don't have to get it on the Switch. But anyways, time for the main gimmick. These little things, called creation crystals. Basically, what creation crystals are is that, like every title in the series, it speaks for itself. So Imaginators means you can imagine your own Skylander, meaning that you can create your own Skylander. And there's actually a lot of battle classes to choose from, like Brawler, Sword Fighter, Sentinel, Swashbuckler, Mage, Ninja, so much actually. Yeah, so allow me to introduce you to the Senseis. So, these are the Senseis. And there's a lot of them, actually. For example, we have Mr. Cat, we have Ambush, and we have Master Kingpin. Stay frosty. But this time around, things change. You may remember the villains in Trap Team for being trappable. Well, they officially have their own figures. They officially have their very own figures. Sorry, my Golden Queen figure is broken. This is Golden Queen, who you may remember from the Trap Team. And even, there's a lot of villains that get introduced into Imaginators. You have Golden Queen, of course, who is the power-hungry queen that she's always been. There's Wolfgang, apparently, is in this game as well. Let there be rock! And he's a archer with his guitar. Dr. Crankcase is a character. He's the gunner. Chompy Mage is playable. He's the bazooka guy. He's got a chompy bazooka. And not to mention, someone I forgot to mention in the previous Trap Team, Taekwon Crow. You may not know this, but there was this time when Skylanders got 2 new elements. And with that came new Skylanders. There's light and then there's dark. Well, Taekwon Crow was part of the dark elements. But now, he's a fire character. Probably because he's red and whatnot. And even good old Hoodsicle here got a change. In the original Trap Team, he was freaking undead. Now he's dark. And of course, you can officially play as the orange marsupial of the PlayStation of the OG PlayStation, Crash Bandicoot. Yes, this was literally what made me buy Imaginators, so I could play as Crash. And what I'm trying to say is, when this first was announced, people went absolutely insane. When the first trailer dropped, we were like, that's the original Crash. That's not the crappy Mind Over Mutant design. No, sir. It was the return of the lovely Marsupial from 96. And even Dr. Neo Cortex is playable in this game as a sorcerer. And remember how in Trap Team you could play as Chaos? Well, you can actually play as Chaos with his own figure. Now, isn't that fascinating? So, all right, let's get on with the story finally. So how about let's get on to the story. The story this time is that Chaos, of course, is doing his usual thing, being evil and whatnot, and this time around, he's trying to steal something. I don't know what he's trying to steal, but he's trying to steal something. Like maybe he's trying to steal these. I don't know. He's trying to create something. He's trying to create something big, something legendary, something super evil. Not the Evilizer crystals, but he's trying to create something called the Doomlanders. And that's just terrible name. But that's a kid's quirk. That's a kid's game quirk. You gotta have crappy names. Not trying to offend any of you guys, but anyways, so you get all these senseis and you travel across a random set of, a random assortment of landscapes. And even the racing mode from Superchargers is back. And yes, you could use the vehicles and the Skylander that you choose to have. I just don't know if the Chaos Trophy is usable anymore. I don't entirely know. But you can play as Chaos in the racing mode, thanks to the figure. And by the way, he is his own type. Basically, that's his battle class. He basically wields all the battle class attacks, hypothetically speaking. And yeah, so you go across these different landscapes, like the Golden Arcade, Fizzland, which is basically Pop Fizz's Fever Dream world, and even some sort of mine or carnival. And it all leads up to the final boss, which we'll talk about in a bit. How about the gameplay? Man, it is literally the same, but it has a few new things. For example, the funniest thing you could do in this game is selfies. Has Skylanders gone modern or something? Basically what you do is you press the ZR button or the R button on the Wii U gamepad, and it'll freeze time at any moment. And you'll be able to take a picture of a certain Skylander. And that picture of the certain Skylander, say you take a picture of good old Crash here, and it'll appear on the Brawler portrait. Now, you don't need to take selfies, of course, if you are stupid enough to not notice it, but it is pretty neat once in a while. So, yeah. What about the graphics? The graphics have improved a little bit from Superchargers, but they're sort of the same, sort of different. It's just basically the typical design that they've had throughout the entire trilogy of the Academy trilogy, that is. The original trilogy had nice graphics, but not too nice. Okay, so what about the bosses? The bosses are the Doomlanders that Chaos is creating. And basically, and the funny thing is, you can edit your Skylander's catchphrase. Make them say, "Party with the bananas," or something like that. Or, "Master of zombie dance parties." That was created just for the kids, honestly. And even Chaos has this sort of effect. One of them says, "Unleash the monkeys," and another one says, "Be afraid of the bananas." And of course, and he'll get some of them right, like Master of Evil, and stuff. But sometimes he'll get something like, "Oh, hail my ultimate awesomeness," and then he'll be like, "Eh?" So yeah, and even Skystones, which I forgot to mention in the previous few games, is back, and this time it's called Creation Clash. And you choose, and basically what Skystones is, it's like a mini game where you get to earn extra gold or something special. Basically what it means is that, hey, we can fit a board game in here like Hearthstone, so let's do it. Basically you have this little square thing, and you put it out, and that square thing tries to attack the other opponent's thing. And if you kill all the opponent's things, you win. So that's Skystones in a nutshell. Okay, how about we get to the final boss? Actually, we'll do that in a bit. Let's discuss the DLC. Remember how I said Crash and Cortex are playable in this game? Well, they have their own level included with Aku Aku, who apparently is here too. And basically what that stage is about is that you're trying to fix the terrible vibes of music in order to save the Great Synchronization Celebration. And little did we know that Activision would go on to make the Insane Trilogy after that. And that I can imagine right now, while they were trying to make Skylanders, they were making Crash as a Skylander. They're like, you know what? We're gonna need to revive him eventually. Let's keep him under our wing. So yeah, let's get to the final boss, shall we? Because why not? So your final boss is of course Chaos, but this time around he's got something great up his sleeve. You ready for this? I don't know if you're ready for this. He goes Super Saiyan. Super Saiyan Blue, to be exact. Yes. I can imagine Activision going like, you know what Imaginators needs? Oh yeah, Dragon Ball references. That's what they need. And so Chaos turns into Goku all of a sudden and goes Super Saiyan Blue, and you gotta beat him up. So yeah. So once again, that shows the creativity of this game. It really does. Okay, so you beat Chaos, and of course that ends Skylanders Imaginators. And sadly, there is no the adventures with your Imaginators is only the beginning. Therefore, the franchise ended with Imaginators. So in the end, Imaginators is the definitive version of Skylanders as a whole, which is why I'm giving it, you know what? I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10. It's the biggest farewell we've seen from Activision. In fact, it's the only farewell we've seen from Activision. But I give this a 10 out of 10 for it letting you create your own Skylanders, letting you, of course there's the mini game and racing mode, and allowing you to play as Crash, Cortex, and Chaos. So in the end, thank you guys so much for watching this marathon. If you wish to see more marathons, let me know. Anyways, see you guys soon, eventually. Sayonara.